And why are we rooting for him? We're rooting for this meek man who's going to die soon, to make some money for his family, but also to feel like he's alive for the first time in his life because he's just led this very meek existence. And so that's why we're rooting for him. That's why we like him. And when he makes mistakes, he may go off track, but we hope he comes back. We're still rooting for him. You're listening to What the Hell is Michael Jamin Talking About? Conversations in writing, art, and creativity. Today's episode is brought to you by my debut collection of true stories, A Paper Orchestra, available in print, ebook, and audiobook. To purchase and to support me and this podcast, please visit michaeljamin.com/book. And now, on with the show. Hey everyone, it's Michael Jamin, and you're listening to What the Hell is Michael Jamin Talking About? Well, today we're doing another Q&A from, I host these free writing webinars, and there's a lot of questions that people had. We couldn't answer them all in the end because we ran out of time, and so we're going to address them here. But this episode, Phil, I'm here with Phil Hudson.
What up?
Phil, today's episode is brought to you by A Paper Orchestra, which is my collection of personal essays. It's David Sedaris meets Neil Simon. On sale on my website, michaeljamin.com, or you can find it anywhere books are sold, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Apple Books, all those places. Go get it. Go check it out. It's a fun read.
Yeah.
Okay.
Worth checking out all the versions, though, too. I was just listening to the audiobook, and it's... we talked about this in your episode about the book itself, but the music cues and the intro is very well done, very well produced. Yeah. You're also telling me about Phil, how hellacious of a process it was to do it to the, to the quality you like. So
yes, because you only get to put it out once, but thank you. So Phil got to the audiobook, but it's available as ebook and print as well, however you consume your written materials.
Love it.
All right, Phil, we got some questions.
Yes.
Enough about me. Let's ask me some questions.
Let's talk to you some more about you.
Yeah.
This is from the November 18th webinar. These are, like you said, Q&A stuff. And the topic of this webinar was how professional screenwriters create great characters. This was, I think, a first run on this topic. You hadn't done this topic before.
It could be, yeah. This was a good one. I think, this turned out to be a good one, I thought.
I think so, too. We can tell, there's some metrics we can tell in terms of how long people stay, questions that are asked, how long it goes. And I was going to say, too, we didn't get to these questions because typically when we first started doing this almost a year ago, February will be, a year doing these, it was like 30 minutes of lesson, and then it was like a bunch of Q&A. And that has transitioned into about 45 minutes of lesson, and then a little bit of Q&A where we can get it. And then we even have VIP Q&A now where you can just pay a small fee to join for like an hour after, and you just talk to people on Zoom, and they get to go live and ask you questions, and some really, really good questions being asked in that. So if you're interested in attending these webinars, go to michaeljamin.com/webinar where you can sign up for that. But then you can also sign up on that page to get into the VIP if you want to ask Michael directly a question that you have if you can't get to it.
So to be clear, the webinars are always free. Mm-hmm. And then if you want to spend extra time with me, that costs you something. But I should also say, right now we have, it seems like we have like 4 that we're going to have a rotation, but we may keep adding to different topics. But right now we have 4 good ones. So if you missed it, just sign up and maybe we'll do it again.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think some of the topics you've come up with have come from the Q&A that you do on these topics. Like, how do I overcome writer's block? Or like, I'm really struggling with like a character development. So they kind of incept the idea of like, okay, here's a topic we should go down. So lots of great value there. All right. Well, again, just for housekeeping, we do split these up into topics. So we have kind of general topics. We have craft, breaking in, questions related to your course or the webinar topic, and then miscellaneous. So we're going to start with craft. I think, again, people want to know how to do the job, which I think is helpful.
Yes.
So Chad Sime or Sime, I don't know how to pronounce that. Sorry, Chad.
He doesn't know either.
He's probably making it up. Was it like Pelletieri, one of the writers on Tacoma Tea? Like they repronounced their name because it was like changed at one point?
Yeah. He says his own name wrong. Poor guy.
I know someone who was a Heinrich, and then when World War II happened, they changed it to Heinrich, because they didn't want to be associated.
Yeah.
There you go. Chad asked, do you have examples of writers who have successfully experimented with story structure? What principles did they stick to, and where did they deviate?
I don't really know. I mean, Um, I don't really know if I have a good answer to that. Every time I watch something, I go, "Oh, it falls into the good." Like, I guess there's some really high level writing. Like, okay, Christopher Nolan. Okay, so I wouldn't say. I would say many of his movies do not fit what I would teach. Like, Memento. Like, but forget. I mean, or Inception. I don't know how many times I've watched it and I still don't understand it. So it's a great movie, though.
Yeah, but I would say that I can see clearly the writing structure in those.
You can? Okay.
Oh yeah, like definitely an Inception too. It's like, how do we get on this journey and how are we making decisions and where are the stakes, like all that stuff. Like, I think it's all
A lot of it playing with the timeline, like Memento, when he's playing with it, like I don't even know what year it's supposed to be.
But you're right. But I wonder if that's like it's all there, and it's just been split to change and mess with your head a bit. But it's all there, which is why it resonates with people.
But I guess my advice is like, listen, if you want to operate at the high level, that's great. But let's just get to the professional level first before you become the master level.
Yeah, and Christopher Nolan's a great example of that because he had made a feature before he did Memento. So he had a full feature. He was making short films all the time in film school before he even started experimenting with timelines and things like that. So
yeah.
Okay. Listen to me just arguing with Michael Jamin on his own podcast.
What do I know? You might be right.
Maybe my head did get big, Kevin and Steve. All right. Marianne wants to know, you have such a great understanding of human nature. Was there something you've always been good at, or did you develop it as a writer?
No, I didn't. I have a very low emotional IQ. My parents were great people, great parents, but terrible, low emotional IQs themselves. Just because that's the household they grew up in, and so it's not a knock on them. It's just like this is the product of your parents, because this is what this is how they communicate. And so a lot of this I learned again from my wife, just from being with her. And then the rest of it, of course, I learned as I became a writer, because that's your job as a writer is to really understand people and to get into their shoes. And it's so funny. I've spoken about this in the past, but my first writing teacher was a guy who really wanted everyone to be in psychoanalysis. That's what he called it, because he was so old. They don't even call it like that anymore. It's psychotherapy, right? But he thought every writer has to be in psychoanalysis, because if you don't understand yourself, how could you possibly understand someone else or a character? And I think he's absolutely right. I didn't want to believe he was right, but he is right. If you don't understand yourself, and most people do not, and we know this because they go through life unconscious of the people of the damage they're leaving, of the people they're hurting, because they're just not even aware of it. And you see it all the time. You could see it on social media, people saying really mean things. It's like, you might even be a good person, but why would you put that in print? Why would you, what is wrong with you that you would say that? Like, what part of yourself is so wounded that you think you need to say this in writing? And so I appreciate the compliment, but like everyone else, I'm a work in progress, and I think writing definitely has helped me.
Yeah, it's great. Albert Klein wants to know, and this is again contextual here. These are people who were live chatting questions throughout this episode or this webinar. But I said relatability is key in full caps. I think it's what you're talking about with the characters. Like, do these characters need to be relatable? Do I need to understand who they are?
Yeah. And it's the same thing with like Tony Soprano. Like, how do we relate to a mobster? I don't, and he's probably a sociopath as well. But what we can relate is the fact that we know what it's like to be a boss. Maybe you know what it's like to be a boss, to have people undermining you, your underlings, and he certainly had those problems. We know what it's like to be a father and to have children that are rebellious or whatever. That's the part we relate to with Tony. So we don't relate to the part where he's going to whack somebody because he's late with the whatever. But we do relate to those other issues, which is,
anxiety, the stress of family life, his psychotic mother,
and that's what the show is about. It's not
crazy
about
in-laws. He deals with his in-laws too. Joey Pants, I think, is his brother-in-law or something, right?
I don't remember what he was.
Yeah. Anyway, it's all relatable because it's just a heightened version of what you go through.
His job is a little more interesting than our job, but it's all, that's not what it's about. It's not about the mafia. It's about the emotions or that we all relate to.
So, great answer. Rake Vid So, do you find the anti-hero more interesting than a traditional hero?
Anti-hero is not even a term I use. Uh, um, I don't know. I think your hero has to be likable. I don't know. I'm off. I'm out of. I can't even say. I've lost interest if your character is so unlikable. I don't really care what happens to him or her. I'm out. So this notion of anti-hero, I don't even think of your writing that way. You have a hero. I think anti-hero is just one of these terms that I don't know. Expert writers will tell you it's an anti-hero. What?
Yeah, people say that. Like people have said that the whole time since I've said I've wanted to study screenwriting or be a writer publicly. Said, oh, so I'll describe what I like. Like, oh, you like an anti-hero. Like Batman's an anti-hero. And I was like, why? Because he's not goody two-shoes Superman like you've described him. He is a deeply wounded person who is using every resource he has, all of his willpower, to stop other people from suffering.
Yeah, and he's how is he anti-anything? I mean, we were on his side. He's complicated, but we're on his side. We're rooting for him. If we're not, we got a problem.
Or what about Walter White? Breaking Bad.
Yeah. What about Walter White? So that's a great. Is he an anti-hero? I don't know. Who cares? To me, he's a guy who's dying in the pilot episode. He's dying. He's a teacher, so he doesn't have any money. What is he going to leave his family when he's gone? He's got to come up with money fast. And the only way he knows how to do that fast is by capitalizing on his skill set, which is he's a chemistry teacher. So he can make meth in a lab. Does that make him an anti-hero? To me, he's just a hero.
Well, and then you find out that he gave up tremendous wealth because that was like he had that partnership at that company, right, where he had the ability to just multi-millions of dollars, and he's a public school chemistry teacher.
Yeah.
So it's those layers of decisions and regret. It's exploring the human condition, definitely.
And why are we rooting for him? We're rooting for this meek man who's going to die soon, to make some money for his family, but also to feel like he's alive for the first time in his life because he's just led this very meek existence. And so that's why we're rooting for him. That's why we like him. And when he makes mistakes, he may go off track, but we hope he comes back. We're still rooting for him.
Yeah. Great. Chad, back again, Chad. How deep should someone go in developing a film or television character, knowing that the director, actor, and the show's evolution will shape their personality?
Yeah. I mean, you should go deep enough to get their interest so that they want to buy your work or work with you. But just know that's the thing about film. The minute you sign up for a film or you sell your film, the director's in charge. They're the boss. It's their movie. They might fire you. They're going to probably hire 5 other writers to rewrite the hell out of you. You may not even get screen credit because that'll be arbitrated by the Writers Guild, which writer did the most work on it. And so you should do as much work possible to entice people to get on board your project. But once they get on board, you're out. Except in TV, it's a little different. TV, the writer is the boss.
Yeah.
Not the director.
Yeah, and the actor needs to play that role, right? You've got to entice them with your writing.
Yeah, right.
And then good for you, man. Congratulations. You can cry about it and wipe your tears with $100 bills.
Yeah, right. Or write something, write a book. If you're so protective, then do it your way. Write a book.
Like me.
Like My Paper Orchestra. Available at michaeljamin.com or Amazon or Barnes & Nobles or Apple Books or anywhere books are found. And now back to our show, Phil.
Excellent.
Commercial break.
Kwaku Ghana, I'm so sorry. I did not get that right. How would you go about creating a character who is far removed from your life? For example, based on a myth or a legend. And it seems like there's a 2-parter here, so maybe address that one.
How would I go about, what's the second part? Maybe? Or is it so unrelated?
And advice for generating side characters. How do you get the balance right between,
Oh, that part I could teach in the course, the side characters. But how do I go about creating characters that are, what was the first that were mythical or something?
If you have characters that are so far removed from who you are.
Oh.
And I'm assuming this is like the job or the thing they do, not necessarily the difference in who they are, right? Because they're saying like myth or legendary heroes.
Yeah, well, I would say try to do some research. If you're not modeling it after someone if you know a psychopath, get to know them and try to figure out, steal from them or a family member or someone you know. And if you don't, then it's on you to do a lot of research. Then you're going to have to get books on people who, you want to be authentic. You don't want to, that's part of your job, is the research part.
Yeah.
I prefer to steal. I prefer to steal from people I know.
There you go. That's why all of his crazy characters are named Phil Hudson. I couldn't figure it out, but this ties back to David S. Goyer's comment about the Man of Steel movie that he wrote. And he asked, like, what's the theme? He's like, it's about fathers. And it's like Superman has an Earth father, but he has this other father. And it's literally dealing with your father relationships. And then the second one is about mothers, and it's Batman and Superman dealing with this. Both of their mothers are Martha, and they're struggling. And so there's this balance even of, like, we all know what it's like. Like, you can even jump to like Iron Man in Civil War when they're fighting, and he's like fighting because he finds out this other character killed his mom, and Captain America's trying to stop him, and he goes, he killed my mom. And it's like, you can't be mad at Iron Man for wanting to fight this guy who's been his ally because he killed his mom, even if the guy doesn't remember doing it. Right? Yeah. He killed your mom. So that's all super heightened, like superhero things. But what I'm trying to get to is there's humanity in every character, and your life experience, mining your life for stories, like Michael teaches, that's how you do that.
Yeah.
Okay. Kim wants to know, what about inner conflict, like being raised strictly religiously and discovering the joys of secular humanism and the transition from the medieval mindset to Renaissance?
Well, you're probably a better person to answer than me.
Yeah. So this feels like very specific to like a type of story that they're writing. But when we talk about like internal conflict, this is something I struggle with, because as someone who's religious and been raised religious, I'm not anti-religious. I'm still very active in my faith. And there are a lot of people who are very interested in what it means to be a Mormon, to be a Latter-day Saint. And I've struggled with how to approach that type of story. You've been telling me to write that for a long time. And I've struggled because I don't want to be preachy and I don't want to tear down my faith. Yes. And then I did find a balance. And that balance is, let me just take a step back and look at all of the characters that I grew up with in this secular religion. And what is so intriguing about the mommy blogger, the multi-level marketer, the jock has-been who's now a real estate, or the guy who went on to sell summer sales and has so much money but zero personality. And then put some interesting character struggling with their faith in the middle of that, so you can explore.
Because these are all characters that you grew up with in your faith.
I know, like the multi-level. All of these people.
Do you think Mormonism has something, like, do you think there's a trait in Mormonism that applies to multi-level marketing or something?
I do. Yeah. There's no better networked religion, I think, than the LDS faith. Everything's divided geographically. You have 10 congregations that are geographically divided in what we call a stake. Then you have wards, which is literally a term to define a geographical area. So your neighbors all go to church with you. You do this, you know everybody, you know their name. You're encouraged to know their families and look after them and take care of them. And this is like pioneer heritage. This is a religion that was chased out of city after city. A Mormon extermination order made it legal to kill us in Missouri, and it wasn't repealed till the 1960s or 70s. Like, the circle the wagons mentality of like pilgrims or pioneers, and they still treat it that way. And so, present yourself nicely, taken to an extreme, is have perfect teeth, go to the gym for 3 hours a day, wear nice clothes, live above your means, keep up with the Joneses.
Really?
And it's like, I totally see that, because I didn't grow up in that type of family.
See, that's interesting to me. But you feel like if you were to write that,
now I'm saying I know how to do that, and I do know how to explore it, because I'm not making fun of the religion necessarily or my theology. I am doing something that's always been interesting. It's the hypocrisy. The hypocrisy of it. And there's a lot of that. It's, befriend everybody, but don't play with those kids because they don't go to church. Right.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, that's, if Jesus said we should love our neighbor as ourselves, then why are we not playing with the kid who's, just moved here from South Dakota?
Right.
Yeah. Right. So there's all those things. So what I would say, advice is, you need to look at what is interesting and what's your personal feelings about those things. And I left Utah because I didn't like necessarily the culture. It wasn't about the religion that was prominent there. It was the culture of the people. And that is something I have a lot of opinion about. So why am I not writing about that?
Yeah. Right. Good.
So
Good.
you'll be getting a draft within the next month or so from me,
Good.
Michael.
Good.
So.
Send it along. You are listening to What the Hell is Michael Jamin Talking About? Today's episode is brought to you by my new book, A Paper Orchestra, a collection of true stories. John Mayer says it's fantastic. It's multi-timbral. It runs all levels of the pyramid at the same time. His knockout punches are stinging sincerity. And Kirkus Review says, those who appreciate the power of simple stories to tell us about human nature, or who are bewitched by a storyteller who has mastered his craft, will find a delightful collection of vignettes, a lovely anthology that strikes a perfect balance between humor and poignancy. So, my podcast is not advertiser supported. I'm not running ads here. So if you'd like to support me or the podcast, come check out my book. Go get it in an ebook or a paperback, or if you really want to treat yourself, check out the audiobook. Go to michaeljamin.com/book. And now back to our show.
John wants to know, so if you choose the worst person to go on the journey, does that mean you came up with the scenario or premise or actual journey first? Because this goes back to your in this episode or this webinar, you said it's not about finding the perfect character, it's finding the and then I want to let people watch that webinar so they can get this thing here.
The question basically is which comes first, character or the story. And I to me, it's the story. Like most people say, oh, well, I'm writing a movie about a guy who, comes back from the war with post-traumatic stress syndrome and now has to integrate into the real world. That's the story. So now you have to go, who's the character? Like, what's the best character for that story? Was he like a SEAL, a Navy SEAL, or was he like one of these, accountant pencil pushers? Like he might have been a grill cook or something. Yeah. And I didn't sign up for this. And now he's coming back to the real world with PTSD because the bomb went off or something. So, that might be more interesting than a SEAL. I don't know. But you came up with the story first.
Oh, can you imagine like you have legitimate PTSD, and there's stories from like even World War II. It's like things are bad when the chef is loading their pistol, like when the cook is loading it. They've advanced so far across the line that the cooking staff are now preparing to defend themselves. That's a problem. So you imagine that guy comes back and he's like in like a support group and he's like, I'm just struggling. And people are talking about like, we dropped in, we fast roped in at night to get this guy, and an IED went off. And this guy's like, well, our position was overrun. It was like, and what did you do? I was like, I was a cook. And it's just like, it diminishes your PTSD, but it shouldn't. But it's like, that's fascinating.
It's more like, you might go into the Army because you want to become a dentist, and the Army will pay you to become learn how to become a dentist. But you're not signing up to carry a pistol. You're signing up to drill teeth. Yeah. And so if you got PTSD, if, like you're saying, your position was, your base was overrun or a bomb went off or whatever, this is not what I signed up for, you know? And that might be interesting.
Very interesting. I want to see that story. So
yeah.
All right, 4 Eyes Concepts. Can a non-human character be relatable?
Can a non-human character be relatable? Well, they should be relatable. We watched the movie Cars. It's about cars, but it's really, they're not. They're not cars. They're people who are drawn to look like cars. Yeah. I mean,
we talked about Data. Data from Star Trek, right?
Yeah. Everything should be. No one wants to care about a car.
Wally.
Wally. Exactly. All those are
Short Circuit.
Smurfs. Yeah, they're people just drawn.
Johnny Five is alive, man.
Yeah. So they're not cars or toys. They're people.
Yeah. Awesome. So it's a craft section. Let's talk questions related to the topic and course. Jim Garcia wants to know, how would you approach a true story? They just got the IP, so it sounds like they've optioned it. For a CIA badass who did badass things, would you focus on areas of his life where he isn't such a badass? His complicated backstory?
Yeah, right. I always, to me, it's much more interesting to write about someone's weaknesses than it is to write about their strengths. And so, that's exactly right. What's his problems? What are his weaknesses? That's what I would write about.
Yeah. What was that movie you told me to review with Bob Odenkirk, where he was like,
what was it called again? I liked it.
I can see the poster.
Yeah.
Getting punched.
It'll
come to me in a second, but that was an example of someone who just seems like a normal, regular, paper pusher. And then you find out he's got this rich backstory, but it's him struggling to get back there. He's not good at it at first. He's
Yeah.
like getting his butt kicked.
Yeah, I like that movie.
Yeah. The name will come to me in a second. TJ wants to know, when does a scene end, or when should you end a scene? That's probably a better question.
I teach this in a course in big greater detail, but the scene ends when the character's attitude is no longer the same as it was at the beginning of the scene, and that's when the scene is over. When the character, so for example, I got to think. Now I'm put on the spot. I can't think of but it's basically a character gets some piece of information and they go, "Oh, I gotta go apologize to her," or, "Oh, that does it. I gotta rob a bank." It's like now their attitude is shifted. So it's slightly different than it was in the beginning, and this is a mistake that most new writers make. Is like the scenes continues long after the character. They're continuing to write even though the scene ended 10 minutes ago.
Right.
So, when the character's attitude is different, has shifted, your scene is over.
Yeah, it's great. Rakevid wants to know, is story structure pretty much the same worldwide with the exception of cultural differences?
I believe so. I mean, stories. What difference does the language make? And to be honest, I am interested in stories from other cultures because look, we all have love. Love doesn't change from culture to culture. This culture, you may have arranged marriage. In this culture, you don't have arranged marriage. Or in this culture, a marriage ceremony might look different than this culture's marriage ceremony. But love is love, and so you're just writing about the same thing. And I appreciate the window into your world because you have a different culture. But we're all humans. We all share the same human emotions.
Yeah.
And so that's where people get hung up. It's like, no, it's the same. We're all the same.
Yeah. I met this kid here who's from Iran here in Los Angeles, and we were chatting, and I had the opportunity in film school and at Sundance to catch several Iranian films by this Iranian filmmaker and a couple of his cohorts. And he was so impressed by that because I was able to talk about the story structure of these films. And what's interesting is how they have to navigate the politics of a government that funds everything, but also censors everything, and how you have to use, show, don't tell, and speaking indirectly to get across your message that kind of is political and anti-government, but have the government fund it and think you're doing good work for them. But its story is what connects and carries through. And the other great film everyone should check out from 2013 is called The Lunchbox. And it's this beautiful film I saw at Sundance. And it ties in culture so beautifully to how we approach story. I would absolutely check that one out.
Okay.
So, David wants to know, how can you add to the skeleton of a good character? Like if you have the basis for a compelling character story, but you feel you need to add more to make your character real.
Yeah, that one of the things I have in the course is a whole worksheet. It's a chart that you need to fill.
Changer.
Yeah, it's a chart that you need. So that you have to fill out a bunch of questions that you have to ask yourself about this character, and filling out this chart will really help you flesh out your character in a way you couldn't even imagine. And then there's other characters in this chart, and then you have to say like, okay, how does this characteristic match? How do these characters interact? That's another question. And so all of that, if you're really interested, go sign up for my course at michaeljamin.com/course.
Yeah. You quickly learn that you're painting all of your characters to be mirrors of each other because you want to talk about that thing. And then it highlights how you can make all of those interactions more beautiful and more interesting, more conflict to just really improve your story. You got that from somebody. Do you want to say who you got that from?
Yeah, I learned that from Steve Levitan, who I worked under Just Shoot Me. So much of the knowledge that I teach in this course is just from sitting at the feet of writers who are more experienced than I was. So.
Yeah. Do you have your notebook? I don't know if you want to show that to people.
Every once in a while, we take this down.
Yeah. So this is something we bring up in the webinars often. We even give away a free PDF based on this notebook called The Insider's Guide to Terminology. But that's your notes in your career of writing, just writing stuff down from conversations, right?
Yeah, just exactly. I would work with other writers, and they'd say something smart, and I jot into my notebook. And then when I made the course a couple of years ago, I just referred to my notebook. I go, this is what I want to teach.
Yeah, it's awesome. This is Christina in our course, and this isn't really a question, but Kevin, who prepped this for me, left it in. It says, in Michael's course, I learned how to figure out once and for all those act breaks that were a real headache for me before. Story structure is so well explained, it becomes much easier after. And
yeah, she's had a lot of success, Christina.
I was about
she's
to
doing
say, she's taken her life, mined it for all these rich stories, and she's like written, I think, books and then now plays, and those plays are being performed and touring. So
not bad.
And she credits you for helping her figure out how to break the story. But
Yeah.
you didn't tell her what life to live and her experience or how to paint the story. You said, this is how you tell your story. And she did that.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Right. Yeah. Good for her.
Awesome. We have one question on breaking in. This is from New Legend Pictures. I've been wondering about writing for a foreign audience. For example, I'd like to write something in the vein of Korean dramas. I know there's probably no way to break it into the U.S. market.
Writing a Korean drama?
Yeah, just writing for other things, specifically a Korean drama.
Well, are they Korean or are they American?
Sounds to me, it's because this is a foreign audience. It sounds to me like this is someone who really enjoys Korean dramas and wants to take a stab at writing one.
Oh, I see. I don't know anything about Korean drama.
I think he was saying is that worth doing to try to break in? Is that a good sample?
I would assume, if that's your culture and you can write something, like I said, it doesn't. You can write a story that I could have a window into your culture. That's interesting to me to see what that's about. But at the end of the day, you still experience love the way I do. It's the same. So sure, right? If that's your culture, right, and you understand the Korean culture better than because you're Korean, lean into it.
What if you're not Korean and you just like K-dramas?
Then you're in dangerous territory because someone might say, "What do you know what you're talking about?" Or people might have a problem with you. I don't want to debate whether it's right or wrong, but you may run into trouble with that.
I would think that if you want to just write it to get it out of your system and it helps you improve your craft, great. But tread lightly, right? Next, do most shows have? This is the same person. Do most shows have each episode have their own full story arc, or is it the whole season or the series or both?
Well, every episode has to have a complete story. I mean, and then you may have a story arc. This character is going back to college for the first time, but that one episode has to feel fulfilling. It has to feel like, and that there has to be a story in that episode. Or if it's not a complete story, people are going to be bored by it. And then the next episode, you're taking that journey a little further. But this is the question whether you want to serialize or your project or not. But again, you don't need to worry about any of this. You need to write one complete, compelling episode of television. You don't need to worry about episodes 2 through 10. How about just give me one damn good episode? Give me the pilot. That's all I need.
Yeah. Ruth wants to know, say your agent is into a spec script, but you want to pursue it. Can you try to pitch it yourself? How bound are you to what your agent wants?
I wonder if they're talking about me or themselves.
I think what they're saying is like, hey, I have an agent and I got the spec script. It's a film. And my agent says he's not into it. Can I go pitch it myself, or do I have to listen to my agent?
No, you can do whatever you want. I mean, but don't expect your agent to help you with that. If you want to go for it, they can't stop you. Go for it. I mean, the agent's trying to help you, and if they feel like they're helping you, they're going to give you their best advice. But if you don't want to take it, don't take it.
Yeah. I was listening to an interview with Deadmau5, and he said that there was a track that he wasn't really into, and his tour manager was like, dude, this is great. You got to drop it. And he didn't want to do it. And for months and months, he didn't. And the tour manager kept saying, when are you going to drop it? He ran out of stuff. He dropped it. It's his biggest hit. Sometimes you don't even know what you want, what is good for you, but vice versa. Sometimes other people don't know what's good for you. And it's all risks, risk and reward. Weigh in, go for it.
Yeah.
David Cook is Amadeus. Amadeus is, I think, something that came up in the webinar.
Yeah, I love that movie.
Yeah, my wife's favorite film. I think I told you she wants me to name one of our kids Wolfgang. And I was like, no. And you're like, I might be on her side.
Wolfie.
That's what she wants to call him. She wants to name Wolfgang to call him Wolfie, which I think is just whatever. Is Amadeus a story about an extraordinary person in an ordinary world, or about Salieri, an ordinary person in the extraordinary world of Amadeus?
That's it's so interesting. I mean, it really is a story within a story, and you keep popping back out to Salieri in present time. Why did he go mad? Because, and so you keep it's a story within a story. There's really two stories. You're watching Salieri's descent into into madness because this he killed this beautiful creature. Why did he do it? Yeah.
Yeah.
So who's the hero of that? I mean,
well, it's called Amadeus.
It is called Amadeus, yeah.
Right. So this is like Sicario. Did you ever see Sicario?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. So who's it about? Is it about Emily Blunt or is it about Benicio del Toro?
Yeah.
And I think it wasn't until I got about 3/4 of the way through, I was like, oh, we started on Emily Blunt, but that is not the protagonist.
It's just it's really just a framing device, the Salieri part of it. Because you're really, who's got 90% of the screen time?
Yep.
Amadeus. So.
Yep. All right. Marla wants to know, hat on a hat, new favorite saying. If you do you want to tell people what that is?
We often say, when you refer to a joke, sometimes you put a punchline on top of the punchline. And so we say it's a hat on a hat. Yeah.
If you like that, come to the webinar where we can give out that book based on the free ebook based on Michael's notebook, Insider Guide to Writing Terminology.
Oh, that's one. Yeah, you can get. There's a bunch of terms that we give away. If you want to learn what they are, come to these webinars and we give them away.
Yeah, everybody gets that for just coming.
Yeah.
So a hat on a hat, new favorite. If you base a character on someone in your life or someone in your life recognizes themselves in your writing, can they sue you?
I don't know. I don't give legal advice. But I will say you're protected if you change their name. I would assume you can change their name, you could change their occupation, you could hide who they are, and if they were to come out, they're essentially calling themselves out. Yeah. Why would they be dumb enough to do that? But I'm not worried about it. But I don't give legal advice. So
yeah, I think that the person that will need to worry about that is the studio that buys it, and it becomes so wildly successful that person has a financial incentive to sue you. I don't think it's necessarily something you need to worry about on a spec.
I would hope not. Yeah.
Ruth W., what criteria do you consider when taking a job? Early in your career, you worked for both Steve Levitan and Greg Daniels, but then you didn't work on Modern Family or The Office. Why?
Right. Oh, I wasn't offered jobs on.
Shots fired, Michael.
I wasn't offered jobs on those. But I also had a job. So when Modern Family came out that season, I remember actually meeting with Steve, and my partner and I already had a job we were running a show called Glenn Martin. So it wasn't even like we were trying to get that job. I don't remember what The Office was doing, but I'm sure I've worked every year. I'm sure I also had a job at the time. So a lot of times, and by the way, I've missed out on opportunities. I've missed out on shows that were really big simply because I already had a job. And when the show, it's not like this show is going to be a giant hit. You don't know this, even a great show could be a flop. So
and Glenn Martin, that was the first time show running, right, for you and CJ?
Yeah, it was our first time show running, and I was very happy to be running a show. I was like, oh, good, I've never done it before, so it was exciting, and I'm glad I did it. But I would have made a lot more money had I been on Modern Family for sure.
Awesome. Follow-up question. When you get to a higher level of writer, say co-producer, do you still need to submit a script to the showrunner, or is hiring based on your interview and past TV work you've done?
Oh, no. You almost always have to be read. You need a writing sample, and it has to be a current writing sample, and it has to be good. You're never done writing for free in Hollywood. You're always writing.
Yeah. Derek Nyberg. What if the audience can't differentiate between fiction and reality and carries those powerful story themes into the voting booth? Does this explain why the worst of all possible characters are now elected officials walking around the Capitol building in Washington? Think this explains society's addiction to conflict?
I don't think the two have anything to do with each other, just to be clear. I think you're giving us way too much credit that the characters we create somehow become political figures.
I think that's like asking, was Shakespeare's success with Caesar, with Julius Caesar, or with, King Richard III, or any of these other things he done, was that successful because he wrote them as story and then that led to other people being crazy, or is it because he was writing about the reality of these people?
Yeah.
Like life imitates art imitates life. Right? It's
it goes in both directions. But basically, like you take a show like the one with Julie Louis-Dreyfus. Come on. You know what I'm talking about, the political.
Sorry, Veep.
Veep, yes.
Yeah, sorry.
Like that show would not have been made if there already weren't people in politics acting like jackasses.
Yeah.
Because you couldn't sell the show. You'd be like, I don't buy that any elected official could be that freaking stupid. But because it was already out there, you see it, now you can sell a show on it.
Yeah, that's great. All right, and this is a comment, not a question, but I thought this was a good way to end this. Breveris wants to know, I'm an aspiring screenwriter from India, and the knowledge you share on your Instagram helped me get my first internship. Always look forward to developing my skill set further. Thank you.
Oh, good for you. Congratulations.
And that's someone who's not only in your social media, but the webinars, and that's a reminder to everybody. Just come to the webinars. They're free. We do them very regularly, and there's always something to learn in those.
Yeah. That's it. This is a short one. But thank you, everyone. Thanks for listening. Once again, this episode is brought to you by A Paper Orchestra, my debut collection of personal essays. Available, you can get it on Amazon. You can get it anywhere you want. Barnes & Noble.
Signed copies at michaeljamin.com.
If you want to get it from me directly, I'll sign it for you. And that's it. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you for your questions.
Until next time, keep
Until
reading.
Next time.
Keep reading.
Keep reading my book. And then
read the book.
Okay, everyone. Wow, I did it again. Another fantastic episode of What the Hell is Michael Jamin Talking About? How do I do it week after week? Well, I don't do it with advertiser-supported money. I tell you how I do it. I do it with my book. If you'd like to support the show, if you'd like to support me, go check out my new book, A Paper Orchestra. It asks the question, what if it's the smallest, almost forgotten moments that are the ones that shape us most? Laura Sangiacomo says, good storytelling also leads us to ourselves, our memories, our beliefs, personal and powerful. I loved the journey. And Max Muchnick, who was on my show, says, as the father of daughters, I found Michael's understanding of parenting and the human condition to be spot on. This book is a fantastic read. Go check it out for yourself. Go to michaeljamin.com/book. Thank you all, and stay tuned. More great stuff coming next week.